On to all the other things that happened. The draft happened Sunday night. Started. Phillies did not have a second round pick because of the Trey Turner contract. Aiden Miller was the first round pick, taken 27th overall. The Phillies were up a couple spots because the Mets and the Dodgers were both over the luxury tax and had their picks moved back. So instead of picking 29th, the Phillies picked 27th. I know it's not a major thing, but just in case you were wondering why. I mean, they think he's going to be a corner infielder more than a shortstop. It's kind of that thing. The best player on the high school team plays shortstop because he's the best athlete compared to everyone else on that team. So don't buy in too much to the shortstop thing. I think a lot of people remember that Cornelius Randolph was also drafted as a shortstop, and he was the worst left fielder I ever saw play in person, honestly, maybe outside of Schwarber. So yeah, a lot of to love in the bat. I don't know. You kind of knew a little more about this than I did. He apparently broke a bone in the spring, so he didn't play a lot, and that's kind of why he fell to 27 when I think MLB Pipeline had him as their 13th prospect in the draft.
Yeah, I want to say it was 11, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, so he broke his hamate bone, which is what Trout has now. So I think
Yeah.
Trout got surgery and he was out 4 to 8 weeks,
yeah.
probably like closer to 6. Yeah. That's just what I read about him. I didn't know too much about him going in.
Neither did I know.
I think as far as the value, I wanted a bat. Definitely didn't want another pitcher as much as I love the arms that they've gotten and how they've kind of developed them. I feel like they have proven themselves to be capable of taking these 5th and 6th round arms, and obviously they don't have like the talent that an Abel or a Painter have, or the pedigree that those guys have, but like they've proven that they can develop these guys into capable arms, whether they come up and pitch or they turn into trade chips. Like Ben Brown was a 5th rounder, maybe, if not even deeper, maybe a 10th rounder. But they've proven that they can develop pitching. So I think it's time they start getting bats in the system. Crawford was in the futures game. Dela Cruz is starting to pop off. Rojas is having a really good year, which I was wrong about last podcast. He's kind of sustained that. But yeah, Miller, his biggest tool seems to be the power. I think MLB Pipeline has its 60 grade out of 80. So that's the highest out of their prospects, which is good. I read a thing. Matt Gelb wrote an article in The Athletic today. I guess his family has like their own baseball facility. His brother was a 2nd round pick in 2020. So,
oh wow.
And his dad or his uncle was a draft pick also way back in, I think, the 1980s. Probably earlier than that if it was his parents. But he has like the family tie-ins in his facility. I guess in the off season, guys like I'm not a fan of this guy, obviously, but like Pete Alonso was down there from Florida. He was hitting off Marcus Stroman. So it's like he's done the circuits. He has the resources. He has like the pedigree. And if he has that type of exposure, like I think it's a great pick. And scouts are weird. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So he didn't play like at all this spring because of his injury.
Yeah.
And he said he's 100% now. But like if he played, there's no shot that he would have fallen out of the top 15. So it's like you take a risk on it's not even a risk. Like I was looking at Fangraphs draft prospects and they do this thing where it's like in the risk category next to the future grades, like high, medium, or low risk. And it's like, yeah, they don't always know what they're talking about. Like I think they had Corbin Carroll as like a high risk prospect, which like I don't know about that.
I feel like most high school guys just automatically get that.
Yeah, exactly. But this kid they have him as medium risk, so it's like I guess they just assume that the power will play, and you're not really sacrificing the hit tool because the hit tool is still a 55 out of 80, which is pretty good. Like I think Crawford, that might be Crawford's hit tool. They might have it at 55 or 60, and he's hitting 340 this year. So yeah, I think it was a really good pick. I think he's a top 15, borderline top 10 talent, especially if he would have went to college. So I think it was a good pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a few years to see him, but
Yeah, definitely. He is
Yeah,
older though for high school.
yeah, he is
He's
19. Yeah,
19, so
yeah, we'll see what they do there. A couple other picks I wanted to touch on was the 6th round pick, George Klassen. I think that's how you say his last name. From Minnesota, pitcher, kind of a wild guy, but his fastball apparently averages 98. Like has touched over 100. So a possible bullpen guy, I think, because from what I've read, he doesn't have the controller command to be a starter. Obviously, they'll probably give him that opportunity, but could be a fast tracked bullpen piece in a couple of years. And then Bryson Ware, the 8th round pick from Auburn, broke Auburn's single season home run record this year. Hit 350 with 24 or 25 home runs. So that's one to keep an eye on. Yeah, so those were just the other two that kind of stuck out to me. They also got the 4th round. They got an IMG kid, and anytime you get someone from IMG, you kind of raise the eyebrows a little bit because it is an elite high school. So yeah, just a couple notable picks there that maybe keep an eye on going throughout this summer and then in next year.
yeah, I watched that video of Clausen that you sent. I mean, the stretch, the mechanics to me, I mean, it looks like not identical, but like very similar to James Karinchak of
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland. Like that kind of arm movement, the pre-pitch stuff. Yeah, he threw gas. Yeah, I was gonna mention Walton. I feel like the the first three picks being high school bats, kind of the transition from. I mean, one they never took high schoolers. Like I remember, like
No.
7th overall, Adam Hazley. It's like, what are we doing? But so it's good to kind of see them take that shot on upside. It seemed like a lot of people were happy. A lot of people who know more than I do about the
Mm-hmm.
draft process, they thought that Walton from IMG was a really good pick. Just looking at numbers and stuff, MLB does their top, what is it, 300 or I think 300 in the MLB pipeline, like
Yeah,
draft prospects.
it's 2 or 3. Yeah.
And I think obviously Miller was in it. I think the 3rd rounder, the outfielder from Hawaii, was in it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
The next Victorino too. I forgot we got him.
yeah, Walton was in it, and then they went on a drought. But then,
Yep.
so it set based on like where the picks were in the 3rd and 4th rounds. Like the guys were in the top 300, but the pick indicated like they reached a little bit, so they kind of went
Mm-hmm.
underslot there. And then you fast forward to the 10th and 11th round, they drafted Cam Brown from TCU, who actually MLB Pipeline had ranked higher than
Yeah.
I think maybe both of the guys they got in the 3rd and 4th round.
Very
And
close. Yeah.
yeah, and then the catcher in the 11th round from Sierra Canyon, kind of the same thing. He was ranked he was very close to Cam Brown in the ranking. So it's like you go underslot in the 3rd and 4th round on guys that you kind of take not a risk, but like
Mm-hmm.
you're betting on their upside, which I think Walton has a ton of upside. But
Right.
then it allows you to get guys later in the draft that people still evaluate highly, but can't necessarily afford to draw them away from their commitments. So I think they
Yeah.
had a pretty good draft.
Yeah. Just two things quick on the draft. The catcher from Sierra Canyon, I think his first name's Caden. It's spelled interesting though. Caden Hediger, I
Yeah,
think is his name. 177 on Pipeline. So he's actually the 3rd highest ranked guy they drafted from the Pipeline 200, and they got him in the 11th round. So
switch
that's
hitter.
yeah, that's impressive. And then the second thing was watching the draft when the Phillies came up. The Phillies were talked about in a positive light with 1st round picks.
Yeah,
Um, I was really taken back by that, and then they kind of put it up on the screen, and it's like since 2018 they haven't. I know Abel and Painter aren't you know anywhere yet, and neither is Crawford, but they haven't really, at least theoretically, missed. I mean, it was Bohm,
I mean
Stott,
they're all in the top 100 now.
yeah. So you got 2 everyday players and 3 top 100 prospects out of your last 5 1st round drafts. So the Phillies are all of a sudden went from drafting Hazley, Cornelius Randolph, and all those other lovely guys to somehow hitting on 5, theoretically 5 out of 5. So yeah,
Yeah,
Miller,
shout out Preston Mattingly.
yeah. So that's been awesome to see. So I just want to touch on that quick on the draft. And then after the draft was the All-Star game, and the NL won 3-2 with Nick Castellanos technically scoring the game-tying run on a 2-run home run, and Craig Kimbrell having a throw 30-something pitches, but getting the save, which was cool to see. And this was funny because the NL sucks in the All-Star game, but not when the Phillies coaching staff is there.
Yeah, I was concerned watching Kimbrel throw those pitches too.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about it with how the relievers are hurt, like Dominguez and Soto, or not Soto, Dominguez and Alvarado. And it's like, oh, 4-day break, great. Hopefully they get healthy. Well, Kimbrel threw 30 pitches on his 4-day break.
Yeah.
But I was looking at it. He has, like, obviously Craig Kimbrel, one of the most decorated relievers ever. Fast track for the Hall of Fame. He didn't have an all-star save, an all-star game save.
Oh, wow.
So that was his first one. So I don't know if he kind of said that to Topper, or if Topper knew, kind of like, let's get that one on the belt. Let's get that notch on the belt. And so that was good to see, I guess. He still has 2 days off, so it shouldn't really be a concern.
Yeah.
And yeah, Castellanos playing center field was just funny to me.
Yeah, I'm going to get into a little more later. Castellanos had quite the interesting week. The All-Star game, I don't know. It was a decent one, I'd say. The one point though about Kimbrel not blowing the save was apparently Lidge blew the save in the 08.
That was the only save Lidge
It was his only blown save of the year, and obviously they won the World Series that year. And knock on wood, Kimbrel's not blown a save yet this year, so that was a little funny. Where like you were kind of rooting for him to blow it in a sense. Once I found out about that stat, because I'd totally forgotten about that, honestly. So that was funny. Not only did Rob Thompson and his guys win the game, though, they might have won a couple future free agents this week. A lot of tampering going on here, apparently. So Zach Gallen was the NL starter appointed by Rob Thompson, and his family is from Philly, and apparently, according to the tweet on the left side here, very into Philly sports, where they listen to WIP radio every day, and Gallen's brother confirmed it by saying guilty. And it was just interesting because Gallen had the whole car ride with Thompson where they were talking, and then this comes out. I didn't honestly look at Gallen's contract. I don't know when he's a free agent, but that was a fun one. And then, of course, with Trey Turner and Bryce Harper being on the Phillies now, there's kind of been, I guess, a long-running joke since January that Soto is next. And I guess it kind of spiced up a little bit here, as Jay Floyd said, the Juan Soto came back to Philly with the Phillies because the Padres are playing in Philly on Friday. And these two things are just so funny to me because Soto and Gallen are really big names. And as we know, the Phillies have been all over big name free agents lately. And yeah, it just seems like a very positive week for the Phillies in terms of tampering without actually tampering.
Yeah, Gallen is under contract until 2026. So
okay, they're gonna have to wait a while there.
This is his first, or 2023 is his first year of arbitration. Okay. He still has 2 more years, so he's unrestricted. When does Wheeler's contract end?
After next year, I think.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize he was from Jersey. That's actually really funny. Mm-hmm. I knew he went to UNC, but I didn't realize he was from up here. That's actually hilarious. Yeah, the Soto thing, I saw it when I woke up this morning. That was the first thing on my timeline, and I had to check. I was like, "Is this like a meme account?" Like Twitter not having the check marks anymore, right. Or not everybody having them. I did a double take. I'm like, "Is this like legit?" And I sent it. I think I sent it in the group chat, but I was like, "I'm gonna send it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, whatever." But then I saw somebody else report it too. And I was like, okay, that is awesome. Yeah, I don't know how. I guess the flight from Seattle to Philly, I did it a few years ago. It's probably 5-6 hours,
That's a long
maybe.
Flight, yeah.
Something had to come up on the flight, right?
Yeah, I guess the only person on that flight that he would have had any ties with is Kevin Long. Obviously, neither Harper
Well,
nor
did
Turner.
you see the picture of them before the game?
I did, yeah, in the batting cage.
Yeah,
Yeah, neither Harper nor Turner made the All-Star team, so he doesn't. It's if one of them was there, is what I'm saying is it would have been less eyebrow raising, I think, because they are
yeah, for
friends.
sure.
But in this sense, where it was like Castellanos, Kimbrel, Thompson, and the rest of the coaching staff, outside of Kevin Long, it's like who, does he have a relationship here that would, you know? And the other thing is Hader was there too, and there's no confirmation of him being on this
Yeah,
flight.
yeah, I didn't even think of that.
So yeah, that's the interesting part to me. It's not like he was the only Padre there, and it's like, oh, you're all by yourself. Screw it, come with us. There was another Padre there, so
Dude,
that
I didn't even realize that. That makes it so much more suspicious.
yeah.
And then not even. Did you see the Castellanos quote about somebody asked him about like Otani's free agency?
Oh, I did not see that actually.
It was like, wow. It was like, what would you tell, or would you like recruit Shohei Otani or something? And
Hmm.
Castellanos was like, oh, I'm not about to do that. Blah blah blah. Like I'd just tell him to go wherever he feels most comfortable. And
Yeah.
he like, it was like, how Castellanos talks, but somebody was like joking because in the quote he said like, yeah, go wherever you're happiest, brother. It's like, oh, Castellanos called Otani brother. He's coming home. It's like, when did this become a thing where it's like, yeah, the Phillies are the name destination or tampering, all this stuff. I feel like it's just so
Well,
funny to me.
it goes back, and this goes back to that whole Harper Machado thing we did a couple weeks ago. The Philly like tampering mega team started with Harper when he like was there for a month and went on the radio and was like, "You better damn bet I'm gonna go after Mike Trout or whatever." And the Angels started
Yeah,
crying, tampering, and
yeah.
yeah, that was so funny. That's where it started, and it really hasn't stopped. So that it's funny. Yeah, I guess we'll see what comes out of this in the long term. Obviously, nothing. Although I don't know, the Padres get swept this weekend. Maybe they trade off some pieces. I don't know. So we'll see there. That was a fun one. What do we have next? Oh, I did want to touch on this because Nolan Arenado said some like weird things at the All-Star game where it's like, oh, I wouldn't be surprised if I got traded or whatever. And I'm just gonna put this out here. Which one is more ideal to come to the Phillies, Goldschmidt or Arenado? We got Arenado at 32, plays elite Gold Glove third base, 3 years left, 3.5 years left on his contract, and the last year was weird in terms of how it went against the luxury tax, but the average was 25.5. Then you have Goldschmidt, 35, an elite defender also at first base, position the Phillies currently really do not have a player at. And he has 1.5 years remaining, and next year would be 26 million against the luxury tax.
Arenado's going to cost so much more.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I was like a month and a half ago, I'd say, and this is like extremely like short sighted of me,
Mm-hmm.
but like a month and a half ago, I was like all for it. Like, yeah, like if you want to get Goldschmidt out another like impact bat or something, especially like a right hander, like yeah, go for it. Like this is your window, make a move. And then
Right.
I saw Nick Abel like pitch in the futures game, and I'm like, nope, that guy's not going anywhere. He can't leave. Like I don't know if I'd trade him for Goldschmidt. Like you try and make that deal with McGarry and Rojas, and you give
Mm-hmm.
up more quantity instead of sacrificing Nick.
Right.
So I don't know. I I'm becoming very prospect oriented where I don't want to give these guys up, but at the same time, this is their window. I just don't like I don't want to be the Cardinals meme where it's like, oh, the Cardinals could use this guy and it's a Rosarena, Adolis Garcia, Zach Gallen, Sandy Alcantara. Like I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. You
To
know,
answer
uh,
the question, more ideal is
yeah.
probably Arenado.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
probably.
say Arenado.
Yeah, back when was that 2019 or 20, the offseason when the rumors were flying that he was going to get traded, and he eventually did. The Phillies were a name brought up a lot, and obviously their farm system is not nearly in the spot it is right now. I mean, but you look at the return the Rockies got is
Yeah,
really
the Phillies
freaking
could have
bad.
made it. Yeah, they could have made it.
Yeah,
Austin Gomber. Yeah, good one.
yeah. Joke of a trade. Honestly, both of these, the way they got both these guys, jokes of trades. That Kelly guy, the catcher, in
Yeah.
with the Diamondbacks hasn't really panned out. Yeah, two joke of trades, honestly. So, that's the other thing. I think the Cardinals could be a little more willing to trade these guys just because looking back on it, they didn't give up, jack shit for either of them. Does that make them like, okay, like if we get at least one good piece back, we feel okay? I don't know. I don't know if there's any
Probably
thought
not.
process. I don't know, but I just something I thought about. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with these two in the coming 2.5 weeks, just because the Cardinals are done this year, and
Yeah,
I mean these are aging guys. Let's be honest, 35 and 32. So
that's
we'll see.
I'm thinking. I feel like ideal Arenado and then Reese on a prove it deal at first base, and then you go from there as far as if he has a good year, then whether he looks for long term. And you're 1 year closer to if Arenado starts to slow down at third, you look at the year Aiden Miller has in the system, whether you want to move him up to whether it's double A at that
Yeah,
point,
the
if he's showing
timeline would
power.
fit.
Yeah, that's my thought process there.
Yeah, the timeline would fit perfectly. So that is
And not even that, I'm bypassing a very important piece as of this year. Reese on a prove deal for 1 year, Arenado at third, and then Carlos De La Cruz just keeps hitting nukes in Reading and then
yeah.
Lehigh Valley, and you could have him play first base.
Yeah, that's another interesting name that we talked about last time. So, yeah, I'll keep an eye on this. I guess we'll do a trade deadline show in the next like 10 days or so. So we'll talk about this more then. But just that new rumor that came out about, I guess not rumor, just the way he was so like skeptical about it, just made me think about this because the Phillies obviously were a name that was brought up with Goldschmidt a lot. And the final thing from this weekend, Nick Castellanos said Scooby Doo is a superhero. And the interview was a lot funnier, but I didn't want to deal with getting video. So, first off, he's a dog who could talk. So, I think a dog that can talk and help people by solving mysteries is a superhero. So, it's hysterical. I guess he's right. I don't know. I'm not going to say no to Nick Castellanos.
So I was actually I don't know how often they play this, but I was at a game. I went to the game on Easter Sunday, the ring presentation and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and they played this graphic on the jumbotron because I remember like all the guys were on the screen. It's like normal, like Trey Turner, obviously, like the Flash, but like a lot of Spider-Mans, like your typical superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Castellanos goes on last, and it's like Scooby Doo, and it's like, of course he said that, like only he would say that. And I just remember like everybody like around me was like laughing or like what the hell. And then I guess that graphic or whatever the scene stuck with reporters so long that they had to
Mm-hmm.
ask him about it. And he gave the most Nick Castellanos answer ever because I don't think the quote does it justice. Like
No, it does. You need the
watching
interview.
the
Yeah.
interview, he sat there, he paused, and like he thought about it so in depthly. And it's like Matt Gelb came out with the article the other day. I think it was Gelb,
Mm-hmm.
about Castellanos, and everybody's like, oh, he's like the deepest thinker on the team, but at the same time, he's just like so laid back. And like watching the interview, you understand what they mean. Like if that's how every conversation is with him, he comes across as like the most intellectual guy in the world, and he does seem very smart. But then the conversations that he's intellectual about are why Scooby Doo's a superhero.
See that's like how I feel about him. I think like this whole thing is like a skit. Like he is the smartest dude. I think maybe and he knows it, and he is like trolling everyone with like the way
Yeah,
he acts. Like
it might be a bit.
I think he gets a laugh out of like all this behind the scenes where he like the way he like stared at the reporter and was like what aren't you getting, idiot? Like he like paused and like stared at him like
Yeah,
he's a dog that talks. What else do you need, buddy? Like it
yeah,
just I don't the way he goes about it to me, it's like I just feel like he's like deep down inside just laughing at everyone else the way he gets their attention. And like he definitely knows about like the home run meme stuff now. I feel like he's just
Well,
all in on it.
his post before this season, he was like, "And there's a deep drive."
Yeah.
Like his
Yeah.
video, it's like, "Oh my god, he 100% does." I mean, his family's like openly said on social media that they see it, and at the time they like wanted it to stop, but then like they know about it. How can you
Right.
not?
It's not gonna stop either. I don't know what
No,
you think
it'll.
you're gonna do to get it to stop, but it's not gonna
There's
happen.
those points in time where like I think it should stop, but it's just never going to.
No, it is. It's I don't know. Sometimes it's bad, but overall, it's really funny. I don't know if you.
After the whole flyer situation yesterday, there were so many people on social media that were like, yeah, Castellanos anytime home run in the All-Star game.
Yeah,
It's like, come on.
I know. I mean, it was funny when he did it when I-95 collapsed or whatever, and everyone was freaking
Yeah,
out about that.
yeah,
Yeah, he. I don't know. He's all in on this.
he's the man.
It's honestly great to see, but yeah. All right, so that was a long one. I think we got through everything we needed to get through, so I'm probably gonna split this one in half. But if you made it this far, because I'm only posting the podcast once, this might be in like 3 videos, but if you made it this far in the podcast, good for you. I will say that. I doubt anyone did, but if you did, appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.